Hello, everyone. Hopefully, you are all getting on without any trouble. We're going to give this about a minute to let everybody log in. We're going to have a very full webinar. We've got over 1,200 people registered. We've got space for 1,000 of you. So if you're hearing this as a recording because you didn't get in, we apologize. Hopefully the recording will be enough. Hello, Michael. Do you have slides to share? Okay, so I'll let you know when to move you, and I'm going to go ahead and make you co-host just so that you can do that now. Okay, I have 2 minutes after 2. I am going to get us started. Welcome, I'm Paz Artaza-Regan. I am the program manager at Catholic Climate Covenant, and I am delighted to welcome you to the Laudato Si Action Platform, How U.S. Catholics Can Participate. This is a webinar that we have put together where you will hear from the U.S. representatives to their respective sector working groups at the Vatican. These are the folks that have been working behind the scenes to try to get the platform ready and to organize within the United States their sectors. Little bit of housekeeping always as we get started. The webinar is being recorded, and the link to it will be sent to everybody who's registered, probably either tomorrow afternoon or Friday. If you could please type your questions in the Q&A box. If you know who the question is directed to, add that information. It really helps us when we are trying to farm the questions. Use the chat to discuss amongst yourselves, but don't put your questions there because we may not find it as we're looking for questions. At this point, I am going to call on Sister Ann Scholz with the Leadership Conference of Women Religious to lead us in prayer. And this is a prayer that she wrote and that was first used for the Laudato Si Action Platform plenary at Creighton. And it is the closing prayer of this year's Feast of St. Francis program. Sister Ann, you're muted.
Thank you for that too, Paz. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be with all of you. Let's just take a moment and quiet ourselves and remember that the love of the triune God surrounds us and lives within us. Creator God, source of all life, we praise and thank you for the many gifts of this day, for the blessing of your presence in each star in the sky and every flower in the field, in each creature who roams our common home, and every grain of wheat that nourishes, in each drop of water which sustains us, and in every person who loves and cares for us. God of mercy and compassion, forgive us for the times that we fail to recognize your presence among us. Forgive us our blindness to the daily miracle of creation. Forgive us our deafness to the cries of earth and those made poor by our greed. Forgive us our hardness of heart that separates us one from another. God of abundance, we pray, give us the grace to know that we are one in you. Give us the grace to welcome your people abandoned and forgotten, to care for our common home, and to live in right relationship with you, our God, with neighbors near and far, and with all of your wondrous creation. Give us the grace we need to become your beloved community. We ask all of this through the power of your great and Holy Spirit, whose breath gives life to the world. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Sister Anne. Now we'll move to the section about introducing everybody, but I'm going to do it a little different today. Because we have so many panelists, I will really be introducing them before their section, but this gives you a little bit of the scope and breadth of who is going to be presenting. Kat Doyle with the Archdiocese of Atlanta unfortunately cannot join us. She is ill. I will try to pinch hit a little bit about their work, but hopefully if you have questions about any of their work, you can send them to me and then I'll pass them on to Kat. I am going to give you a little bit of breaking news at this point. Everybody has been looking forward to the launch, the hard launch of the platform next Monday. Unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, it is moved to November 14th. But between October 4th and November 14th, the Vatican is calling us to 40 days of prayer and reflection. And on the platform, we will have ability to see some of those prayers and to participate in that. Hopefully then on November 14th, the platform will be hard launched and you would be able to go and find the resources and find the templates for action plans, etc. But I wanted to get everybody's this information that came to us very late, but needed to get out to folks. In the United States, we have decided, that's the Covenant and its partners, that we are going to raise awareness and engagement through this campaign called We Are All Part of God's Planet. This campaign is to tie to the platform, and it is to give US Catholics a place to land, to be able to find resources, to be able to look at news and events and stories that pertain to their sector within the United States context. By the way, all of these slides will be sent to you and you will have them with all of the links. What's in the God's planet is how we call it. We are all part of God's planet. The events page where you can submit events that are happening in your parish, your diocese, your schools, your colleges. The stories, if you have something happening, you can either submit the story or through the events, we will contact you to see if we can write a story about it. The advocacy page. This is the umbrella page for the breadth and scope of Catholic advocacy. At the moment, what is there is the Catholic Climate Action Petition and the Catholic Climate Action Institutional Letter. As time goes on, more advocacy opportunities will be added to that page. I'll talk a little bit about the grants, and that is the Victory Knoll Sisters grant. I'll talk about it, but the other thing that I'll also talk to you is that downloadable materials are ready to go. This Victory Knoll Small Grants Program, we are really delighted to be able to, with the help of the sisters, Victory Knoll Sisters, to provide small seed grants to parishes and dioceses and other Catholic groups to really bring Laudato Si to life. Up to a maximum of $1,000 is available. The deadline at the moment is October 4th. I forgot the deadline. I need to move that over, 14th. And if there's money left over, the grants become then on a rolling basis as we will distribute them. And this is also quite new, just as today. The website God's Planet US now has the store open where you can order t-shirts. You can order stickers and posters and flyers. Some of these are free downloadables. Some of them are customizable where you can co-brand. Put the logo of your parish or your school, and you can either do it off on your own with your own printers, or you can use the printer that the store provides for you. There are quite a few things that are free downloadables, so go check it out. If you go to the website, you go to the About page, and that's where you'll find it, or you can go directly through that link. And as again, you will be receiving all of these links. The Parishes and Dioceses subgroup, as I call it. This is the group of folks that has been chosen by the covenant to go to we told the Vatican that these would be the US representatives. Two folks from Archdiocese, Kat Doyle and Michael Terrien, and I represent the parishes because of my work through the creation care teams. This is the group that you'll be hearing, except for Kat. Michael will be doing a stellar job of being able to give the Archdiocese diocese viewpoint. But if you're looking to see who is it in the US that is leading that sector, you'll be able to see here who it is. I wanted to take a couple of minutes to talk about the Archdiocese of Atlanta since Kat's not here. This is not all that she would have been talking about, but this is a large part. In 2015, at that time, Archbishop Gregory, Wilton Gregory of Atlanta, agreed that a Laudato Si Action Plan should be written for the Archdiocese. And with the assistance of very committed Catholics and scientists at the University of Georgia, the Laudato Si Action Plan was the first of these plans to come out in the United States. At the moment, the action plan is part of the science and religion curriculum in all Catholic schools in the Archdiocese of Atlanta. There's a pilot project on the way doing energy and water audits in parishes. The Archdiocese is really creating a lot of these creation care teams where the parishes are working on sustainability and spirituality in their parish. And I give you there at the top the link to the Atlanta plan, but I also put here links to two others. There are more on the way, but these are two others that are there. The Diocese of San Diego's action plan is out, as well as the Archdiocese of Washington. And I beg of you to go and check them out because I do believe that these are very good examples for how a diocese or archdiocese can start putting Laudato Si into action. And they all give ideas of how you as a parish or as a religious order or as a school, college can glean the information as to how an action plan can be created. At this point, I am going to call on Michael, and I am going to stop sharing, Michael, so that you can share your slides. And I need to introduce Michael. Michael Terrien chairs the Catholic Association of Diocesan Ecumenical and Interreligious Officers Care for Creation Committee. And I had to read that. There is no way I can ever remember that except to maybe say Cadeo. He also serves on the Vatican's Laudato Si Action Platform Parishes and Dioceses Working Group, and he directs in his free time the Archdiocese of Chicago's Care for Creation Ministry. Thank you, Michael, for being here, and please share with the community what the diocese, archdiocese, how they can engage with the action plan. Yeah.
Well, first, I just want to say it's a blessing to be with you. Thank you. And thank you, Paz, for your leadership. And it's to see Sister Ann and Michael and Bethany. It's wonderful to be with you. And also Elaine, I see her down there in the square. So just to back up a minute, before getting into the midst of the Archdiocese of Chicago, and some of you may be familiar with the Vatican's Laudato Si Action Platform, and some of you may not be. But essentially, it has three purposes. One, and it'll be launched on the World Day of the Poor, November 14th. And its first purpose is to establish a vehicle for resources. So it's a way to collect resources, share information, share resources between dioceses and parishes throughout the universal church. The second piece is that it's about building community, this idea of solidarity, that we're all in it together. So that's really fundamental to the platform. And the third, it's a place for planning. It's a way to organize how your diocese and your parish will go about vivifying the teachings of Laudato Si. So the platform is designed in the spirit of Laudato Si on see, judge, act, or reflect in terms of what you're doing, and then plan what you want to be doing, and then a year out or so, evaluate and celebrate. So that's the structure of the platform. So each diocese and each parish can go on November 14th and establish its own dashboard. So that way you can organize how you work within your diocese or parish. So what I'd like to do now is, just as a matter of a case study, if you will, is just share how the Archdiocese of Chicago is going about rolling out and introducing and integrating the Laudato Si Action Platform within our diocese. And this does not include all the many other initiatives that we have going on in the Care for Creation ministry. So this is really specific to that. So with that, I'd like to share this slide deck with you. The first is that the committee in Chicago is a group of dedicated volunteers and leaders and wonderful people from the different parishes throughout the diocese. So this is the core group. And so starting in May, we began to literally discern in terms of how are we going to integrate this platform into the diocese. So I just really want to give a shout out. This is very much a group effort, and that everybody's working together to do that. So what I'm sharing with you here is a very high level view of Laudato Si in terms of how, excuse me, we're going to be rolling this out and introducing this within our 6 vicariates within the Archdiocese. So there's parishes, and then there's deaneries, and there's vicariates, and then there's the diocese. It's not a huge diocese, but it's a fairly large diocese. And so this slideshow, if you will, or this presentation kind of drills down in a really simple way to invite people to get what part of what Laudato Si is about. And this is obviously the integral ecology and the 7 themes of the integral ecology. And we do this as an experiential way where we literally lay these out on the floor, and then they have little descriptions, and then they throw string across the room until it creates a web. So they literally are creating an integral ecology and connecting all the dots. One of the things that we're really clear about is we want to make sure that this doesn't get truncated into just the environmental group, because then you're kind of in a cul-de-sac within your parish or your diocese. So we really want to lift it up in terms of it being a part of the whole ministry of the parish and the diocese. Because as we know, the encyclical Laudato Si is an environmental encyclical, but it's also a social encyclical. It's Catholic social teaching brought to life. And then what we do is we lay that over with to what the goals are on the platform. And it's to respond to the cry of the earth, the cry of the poor, looking at how do we develop an ecological economics, adoption of sustainable lifestyles, education, spirituality, community engagement, and participation. So the first slide is obviously what is it? And this is how it is. How can we go about really addressing all of this as an integral whole? So what the beautiful thing in the platform is it's organized by each one of these different goal areas. And inside of that are outcomes that can be achieved to achieve that goal. And under that are activities, a whole selection of activities that parishes and dioceses can choose from and say, yes, this is the right thing for us to be doing right now that's achievable, doable, it fits, it'll work, and let's target on these. And so you can literally go into each one of these goal areas and each one of these areas and really discern what your parish and your diocese wants to be doing around that. So again, it integrates it as a whole. Who does it? And so this is another piece that, again, that lays right over it. So we have what it is, how does it work, and who's doing it. You could see that the stakeholders are representative, and this is focused on the parish in terms of it's across the board within the parish. It includes the clerics and the parish councils and ministries and families and staff and lay leaders, and very, very importantly, our youth and young adults, because obviously they have enormous concern about this right now, and it's their future that we're talking about. It's about that intergenerational solidarity. And so from this, it's identifying that, yes, it's the whole parish that's involved with this movement to vivify the teachings of Laudato Si. So in that, it's a process. You can see that what we did is we started right at the bottom. We're like parishes, right? It's involving the parish, so it's parish to parish learning. It's about being in subsidiarity, and it's about being in solidarity, that we're working together. And that idea of synodality, about how we can be collegial in our pursuits. So it's a very simple framework that we've constructed, but by having that simplicity and by that focus, its probability for success and being received is greater, obviously, because the encyclical is a very complex teaching of the church. So in that, the committee, once established, that core group of champions in the parish, is to go onto the Catholic Climate Covenant site, use the resources there. Also go onto the Laudato Si Action Platform site once it is launched, and you can begin to see material now and to see how it's organized. Then for those parish champions to meet with the pastor, solicit his support and engagement, and explain the integral nature of what we're doing. In that, then it's to facilitate meetings with the clerics and all the different stakeholders within the parish. And that can be done in an open space session, or it may need to be divided up by the different ministries or different functions. And then from that, establish that steering committee that's comprised of those different stakeholders, and then register on the site on November 14th and begin your process. What's important to recognize is that this is a journey. This is a 7-year journey. Everybody's going to be starting with where they're at. And so trust in the Holy Spirit, trust in prayer, and that this is going to be a long process that we're all going to be learning and growing and sharing together. It's going to be a beautiful journey for sure. And so I just want to share with you now, in terms of our first step for this, is this has already been sent out to the parishes. And so this is an invitation to the parishes and to the Laudato Si Action Platform. It's sort of a gathering to learn about it. And you can see that we have in each vicariate, we're going to be having a reception, wine, cheese, as well as those activities that we just looked at. And then an invitation. Is this something you want to bring to your parish? And then the first rollout is to have that completed by the beginning of Advent. And then after this first iteration, then after the Epiphany, to do the next generation of that. So that's kind of a high level overview in terms of what the Vatican platform looks like, how the diocese and parishes can be plugged in, and how the Archdiocese is structuring it in a way so it's accessible and doable for everybody in the spirit of solidarity, synodality, and subsidiarity.
Thank you, Michael. Michael, there's a question that I want to put out right now. People want to know if there's the copy of the experiential activity that shows the web of integral ecology that you shared. Is that available for folks?
Yeah, pause. I'll share that with you, and then you could post it.
I can add it to the email tomorrow. Yes, they'll receive it. Okay, thank you.
Happy to do that.
Excellent. Thank you. Let me share my screen again. So now we're going to move to a second sector. So the Vatican platform working groups, there are 7 sectors. Today we are being presented parishes and dioceses, religious orders, and part of the educational sector, the colleges, universities sector. To talk to us today from the religious orders, we have both Sister Ann Scholz, who's Associate Director for Social Mission at the Leadership Conference of Women Religious, and Bethany, Dr. Bethany Welch, and I should have said Sister Doctor, I'm not sure which is the order. We've got a lot of PhDs with us today. Bethany is the Justice and Peace Fellow at the Conference of Major Superiors of Men, and they both have been the US representatives to the religious order sector that the Vatican Working Group meets. And they are also an integral part of a religious order group that is working together within the United States. So I leave it up to you, Sister Ann and Bethany.
So Paz, thank you so much. And thanks to each one of you for joining us this afternoon. It really is a pleasure to be here. I welcome the opportunity to share just a little bit about what religious in the United States or how we're engaging the platform. And I'm anxious to learn even more. So thanks already to Michael and Paz for that introduction to the work of the diocese and parishes. And with that kind of as an overview and understanding that the journey is the same for each of us, we just make our own way by walking within our own culture. So Bethany and I work for the religious conferences in the United States. So our members are the leaders of congregations of men and women here in the United States. And that's the group with whom we work. So I want to give you a very quick look at how religious orders are engaging with the Laudato Si Action Platform. And then Bethany will get a little more specific and talk about what kinds of resources we're trying to make available to our group and provide you with some specific examples of what we're doing that might be transferable to your own particular sector. So Bethany and I have been working very closely with the International Religious Orders Working Group and our colleagues in Rome. We could not do this without the support of our Roman counterparts, the International Conferences of Women and Men Religious, UISG and USG. Their collaboration has been absolutely critical to what success we've enjoyed so far. And I will begin by admitting that religious women and men may have had a bit of a head start, maybe not, but the commitment of many US religious congregations to environmental justice dates back to the Earth Charter in early 1980s. And then UISG in 2019 began a worldwide movement called Sowing Hope for the Planet to promote reflection and action to meet the cry of Earth and God's people outlined in the Laudato Si encyclical. So we may have gotten a little bit of a head start, but like all of you, we really welcomed Pope Francis's call to join the journey to integral ecology during the 5th anniversary celebrations in 2020. So we've begun. I can't say that we're much farther than beginning, but we have begun. In early 2021, LCWR and CMSM invited US religious congregations to join the journey to integral ecology. We sent letters of invitation to the leaders of men's and women's congregations across the country. And we asked each leadership team just to commit to learning about the Laudato Si Action Platform journey and to designate what we've called an LSAP promoter for each of their congregations. And we in turn, that is LCWR and CMSM, promised to accompany religious on the journey. So Bethany and I began by putting together a US working group to help us keep that promise. And I just want to call out Kim Lamberty of the Religious of the Sacred Heart, Mary Ann Comfort with the Sisters of Mercy of the Americas, and Russ Testa of the Orders of Friars Minor. Their help has been absolutely essential. So together, we continue to regularly gather that group of LSAP promoters in an attempt to build awareness and promote this marvelous journey of the Universal Church. We try to provide timely updates of the ever-changing timeline and information from the Dicastery's steering committee, as well as the International Religious Orders Working Group. We share questions, we share suggestions, we share resources among ourselves, And perhaps most importantly, we're trying to build a community among the religious who are taking this journey together. So of course, any of you who are present here today belong to a religious congregation in the United States, and you have not yet joined the journey, you're invited to join our U.S. Religious Orders Laudato Si Action Platform Promoters Group. Contact your own congregational leadership team, and then please contact either Bethany or me or both of us, and we'd be happy to welcome you to our community of travelers. So that's the big picture. Bethany, maybe you can take it from here and share a little bit more about how we're moving forward together and how some of the things that we've been doing might be helpful to other sectors.
Thanks so much, Sister Ann. Good to be with all of you. For me, it's the afternoon. I'm zooming in from Pennsauken, New Jersey, by way of where I do work remotely from the conference's office in Maryland. So we're all zooming, right, from different places. And where to begin with the religious sector is where so much of our work as people of faith begins, which is with discernment. And so you heard some really powerful testimony already about discernment in archdiocese, dioceses, and parishes. It's the same is true within congregations of religious life. And so very much that work involves prayer and reflection. It involves looking back at the encyclical and saying, you know, what is the content? What is the beautiful gift that this document offers us, and how can we touch back to that? Some congregations, that was something they did 5 years ago, and part of the energy now is to revisit it. For others, it's something relatively new, and it's there's a prophetic moment, right? A kairos moment to really touch back to the content there, as we see so much happening in our world. For others, really the call of Pope Francis to the universal church. I can't count the number of religious congregations who are collaborating for the platform with members of Protestant and Jewish faith backgrounds, with interfaith ecumenical work. And so really this is a universal approach as well. People are focusing in their discernment on their charism, right? So we talk about in religious life, the religious institute. And so what is the charism for your community? Your work on the platform, how you proceed for integral ecology, should be reflected and rooted in your charism. And so then the initial decision to undertake this journey is really driven by then a statement of a commitment, some sort of public statement that says our congregation, our religious institute will proceed on this journey. And so we have a series of templates that are being prepared, and I think we're narrowing it down to one example that will be shared with our promoters around October 4th. And we also have sample statements from congregations who have already taken this step. And then there's this second piece of the actual enrollment in the platform. And so for us, we at the religious sectors level, the conversation was really about sort of global and local, right? So many congregations have a local house. So I'm a candidate with the Sisters of St. Joseph of Philadelphia. So I'm in a house, a convent of 3, right? So we could take action on the Laudato Si platform at our house level, perhaps in a South Jersey contingent. We could do it at the congregational level, and even within the Federation of Sisters of St. Joseph. So there are many ways to be thinking about this, but it's important that the commitment happen at that leadership level, so that then we can have the support that's needed to take action locally. Something that's been a huge gift for the religious sector is the website that Sister Ann spoke about, the sowinghopefortheplanet.org. This is, again, a project and a resource that predates the platform. And it's been a wonderful tool and resource for those who have been promoting Laudato Si within their religious sector, or within the religious sector. Thinkific is another platform tool that's housed a number of trainings and educational resources for those who are promoting Laudato Si. And so you can contact Sister Ann or myself about how to join that platform. I would say that's very much for those who are leading the effort in your congregation, in your religious congregation. It's a little bit tricky to navigate. And so it's a great resource, but I'd say leave that to the leaders who have maybe a little bit more time. The other thing that we certainly recommend and invite you to do, so again, if you heard from Sister Ann, you're sitting here today and you're saying, I don't think my congregation has someone in the promoters group, or if they do, I haven't heard about it yet. Talk to the person in your leadership team or your superior, your provincial, and see who's designated as the promoter. Maybe that little nudge is God calling you to be the promoter. right? So do a little bit of research, find out, and then we would love to have you join what is essentially a very robust Google group that then has a number of tools attached to it. So in the United States, and again, I would just say another gift of this journey has been collaborating with our brother and sister institutes around the world. So the meetings that we're on with Rome, right, are really religious congregations of very small to very large, international, transnational, multilingual. And so the learnings have been really rich, I think, in how people are pursuing this in different geographies, with different realities, economic realities, with different political and civic realities. And so the similar type of model we're trying to bring here to the United States, which you might do in Montana might look very different than what happens in Manhattan, right? And so what the Google group does is we pull together are these promoters from across congregations of men and women religious, and we've had a series of virtual gatherings. They include prayer and theological reflection rooted in Laudato Si, in the encyclical. They include time to share what you've been working on and to network. Sometimes it's just a good shot in the arm, right? To get some energy going after maybe you're in a lot of meetings, a lot of paperwork, and then here are a number of like-minded folks. We send out twice monthly kind of an update or news notes that's a roundup of all the webinars available to folks, not just in the religious sector, but across the country and the world. And then in the Google group, people are asking questions of each other. So a question that just came up this week was a congregation that said, I need Laudato Si platform materials in 3 or 4 languages. And immediately, links started coming in and translation started coming in. And then a lot of our congregations are already hosting educational opportunities, right? So they offer those to the group. So again, just to recap, the way that the religious sector is pursuing this is to participate in intentional discernment about joining the platform, to pursue an initial public commitment from your international superior or provincial or leader, depending on what level you operate at. And then in the United States, Sister Anne and myself are collecting those public commitments. And then we anticipate the enrollment, as Paz said, when the website goes live on November 14th. So grateful to be with you and just excited for all the good work that's happening across all 7 sectors.
Thank you, Bethany. Thank you, Sister Anne. Moving right along, given our time, we've got the final sector that we'll be presenting today, and that is the sector for educational institutions. There are 2 folks that are the US leads. National Conference Catholic Education Association, NCEA, is the lead for primary and secondary schools, and unfortunately this date did not work for them at all. But we do have Michael Schuck, who's a professor of Christian ethics in the theology department at Loyola University, Chicago. You may have also heard of him because he produced the textbook Healing Earth, which is a fantastic Jesuit production curriculum that puts science and religion in one textbook. He, in addition to environmental ethics, he teaches and does research in the areas of Roman Catholic social teachings, theological and philosophical ethics, religious ethics, and social theory. He also leads the U.S. Catholic colleges and university sector of the Laudato Si Action Platform. Michael, we're thrilled that you're here with us. I will stop sharing and you can share from your desktop.
Thank you, Paz. And thank you, everyone, for participating today. I'm learning a great deal, and it's wonderful. Let me put my screen up. Let's see, are you seeing one slide or pieces of slides, or?
Yes.
It looks okay?
Yes. You might want to make it a little bigger.
Okay, I'll try that.
Because right now we see the notes on the side. There, a little, that's good.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to talk about university engagement, and I should say right off the top that for universities, the focus is on this 7-year journey and how to institutionally participate in this 7-year frame framework. So the action platform is a powerful resource, but for universities as institutions, they will be going into the concern with how to engage the journey. So I want to talk about that for my presentation. You know, universities are, as you well know, very complex institutions, and our community involves obviously students and faculty, but likewise, of course, administrators and staff in the physical plant and housekeeping and security. And we include within our community our local neighbors. You can expand it out to board members, alumni. So in our view, and when I say ours, I represent the working group at the Dicastery for Universities. We've got about 110 members, and we've worked on a kind of a collective kind of consciousness about who we are talking about when we talk about colleges and universities. And for us, it's all of this. And the challenge in being integral ecologists is to bring as many of these people in our communities together to speak about how we can go forward in our 7-year journeys. I don't need to go through the goals because you're familiar with them, but I would say that you know, the goals are, I think they need to be kind of stated in a way that is relevant to each sector and each institution. For universities, we've worked in the working group at a kind of a phrasing of the goals that really animates students, that animates people that are in the university community context. And it isn't, to be quite frank with you, and probably properly so, the stating of the goals on the action platform is kind of pious, which is wonderful. But for university setting, a little bit more teeth is helpful. So we really, for the response to the Cry of the Earth, for instance, really to push further on climate change, biodiversity loss, you know, or for environmental ecological education to really evaluate curricular institutional reforms. We put a little bit of teeth on these goals, but not in any kind of, I don't think in any way that derivates away from the spirit of the language on the platform. Universities that we reach out to and that contact us about participation in the journey, obviously they are often asking, why should we take on another project or another program? We've got a plethora of programs and projects even related to the environment. So why take on another one? And we've had to really come up with some, it wasn't difficult, but we've really isolated some of the reasons why a university or a college should think about adding this to the UN's SDGs, or to STARS program that they're already involved with, or to green metrics. So for us, it's kind of a 4-point rationale. One has to do with really further enriching a university's existing programs to put them in more of an integral conversation in the spirit of integral ecology. So as in that earlier slide, getting housekeeping people to talk to faculty, to talk to administrators, to talk to students. We at Loyola University has a fantastic environmental sustainability program, but it's a siloed enterprise. Where one of the values of the Laudato Si spirit is to try to get those vertical silos talking laterally. Secondly, this emphasis on really trying to push transformative action. At universities, we do a lot of thinking about social structure, a lot of thinking about the underlying laments of our world. And so for us, we have that responsibility as universities to really look at the deep questions about our economic, political, social structures, and to really step up with transformative, nonviolent actions. And that's value added to, for instance, say an SDGs or the Green Metrics program, which may not be addressing all of the issues that Laudato Si goals do. Then, of course, there's the faith-engaged development aspect of the journey that may not necessarily be otherwise stressed in a university environmental sustainability program. Fourthly, it's the global partnership. We're really hoping to develop a network of universities around the world that are on the journey and are serving one another and populating, or I should say, assisting one another in the journey. The journey, again, in that thinking in terms of the 7-year framework, when a university enters into a commitment to the journey and is enrolled on November 14th, the first year is when you develop staffing and you develop the players, the stakeholders that will be in a sustained community to just begin starting to put out the university's action plan for the 7 years. Years 2 through 6, you're implementing the actions that you've arrived at to address each of the goals. 7 goals, you assess, you adjust. It's very fluid and changeable. Year 7, the Sabbath year, is for celebration and then a kind of formal recognition of a university as a Laudato Si University or Laudato Si College. So you see that's kind of the framework that we're focusing on. So we've come to realize in our group that before you can draw all these stakeholders together around participating in the journey, you really need to, all of these people need to know that upper administration is buying into this. It's kind of a chicken and the egg, which comes first? You get this robust committee going and then you go to the president? Well, or do you get to the president and then you begin forming the framework? Now, we understand that within educational institutions, unless the president is baptizing something or the high school superior, probably a lot of folks aren't going to get an added animation in terms of this environmental engagement that they're already in. So we're really emphasizing bringing to our university's presidents or administrators, their equivalent, a good faith commitment letter that's where they're made aware of the 7-year journey and its broad schema, and saying, are you willing to put your university or college into a good faith commitment to this 7-year journey? If that is agreed to, then that gives a green light for a more robust formulation and an arrangement of a committee. So we developed a university commitment letter, and that has been approved by Cardinal Turkson. He's allowed us to go ahead with this idea. And it reads like this. We're probably running out of time, so I won't read the whole thing, but it's essentially a university president who's been brought up to speed about the general framework of the journey, says, Your Eminence, our institution makes a commitment to participate. And you see in the beginning November 14th, and you see we understand that we will chart our own course through the journey. We'll have the assistance of the platform. We will form a group and essentially from the ground up inductively, the theme that Michael emphasized for dioceses, the university will develop this. And each year report to the dicastery on how it's going, its progress, and also agree to participate with other universities on the journey and enjoy Pope Francis's recognition for those efforts. And so far it's working. We've got about 28 university presidents that have signed the commitment letter, and you'll see that it's a pretty impressive range around the world. The Lasallian group has been absolutely fantastic. Diana Rodriguez, who's head of the Lasallian network in Mexico, has really been working hard at getting the Lasallian universities presidents to sign on. DePaul and Gonzaga were the first US universities to sign on. We're actually, our vision is that on November 14th, we'll have 50 or more. My colleague James Burke at Lewis University feels we'll have a lot more than that. but that our first cohort, and we're talking about cohorts, so the first cohort would be the group of universities committed to the 7-year journey, and then they follow one another over 7 years. Next year, there would be the second cohort, and then after that, the third cohort, and by the impact of the kind of multiplier effect, you continue to grow the university sector. So we're hoping to have about 50 or more on November 14th. And see, at that point, to be enrolled and to be able to really show Pope Francis that the university communities are really engaged and energized, and hopefully lift his spirit. So a university that commits to the journey would have the distinction of being in the first cohort that would be enrolled on the 14th. We're also, our working group has been for a year and a half working on a website called University Pathways, which is a little bit more of a granular assistance for universities that are either contemplating participation or are participating, a more granular resource to work through setting up that first year action plan and working from there. I just wanted to, let's see what else, invite you, if you're connected with universities or religious communities with universities, to let them know that this commitment approach is really helpful to get this first cohort up and running, and to contact me. You can email me, and I'll respond to everyone in the university sector in the U.S. that's interested. The Jesuits are taking care of that, and the LaSallian folks, other religious orders, likewise, we could certainly assist them. And I hope I didn't overstep my invitation.
No, thank you, Michael. You did not. You did great. Going to go ahead and share screen again. We're going to be moving to the section we call the Q&A. And before I get going with a lot of the questions, I want all our presenters to perhaps explain a little bit about the cohorts. There's a lot of confusion sometimes out there about that, especially with parishes, because they're not understanding how a cohort will get accepted. So who wants to take that one first?
Well, so I see in the chat, and maybe I want to make sure I'm addressing your question, Paz, about my bishop doesn't support this, or we're in a rural area, this is not on the radar. One, parishes, and there's been conversation within the dicastery working group with the diocese and parishes can enroll them, get into the Laudato Si Action Platform on their own. They can have their own dashboard. At the same time, we've had discussion about, and that's part of the redesign of the platform, is to be able to aggregate those parishes by diocese. So that way the diocese can also have a role in being able to help facilitate the parishes bringing to life the Laudato Si Action Platform. But it doesn't have to be that way. The parish chooses whether or not they want that their diocese to know what they're doing. That's not to be try to keep them in the dark, but it's just a matter of how international law works in terms of the computer system. So, and I also want to share that in this learning process, there's this continual feedback loop where once parishes are coming on board, that there will be gatherings via Zoom and in person, hopefully someday, on a regular basis, when the parishes will be connecting with each other at a vicariate level as well as at a diocesan level. So that way they can be learning from each other. And so we're all learning together. Again, that intention of the principle of solidarity in that. At a global level, The dioceses are also being invited to connect with each other. So there may be opportunities for a diocese in the north to be collaborating with the diocese in the south and southern hemisphere around critical issues in terms of looking at how that affect how one area may be affecting what's happening in another part of the world, and to create a dialogue there in a way that can allow people to have that ecological and spiritual conversion that's fundamental to this whole endeavor. Does that answer your question?
Sort of. I think the question is that whole 7-year, that folks don't need to be all in the same cohort the first year. And I think they need to understand that it's a journey. So if somebody might want to explain that you don't have to be ready on November 14th with everything, that you can take your time to discern and to figure out and create a plan and then sign up, but you're pledging to do it now. Anybody want to talk about that?
I'll say just a little bit about that. I think it's particularly important for religious congregations because religious congregations have their own planning cycle. Might be 5 years, might be 7 years, might be 10 years. So we want religious congregations, I think we would want every sector to enter, first of all, where they are and when they're ready. And so as I understand it, there will be an opportunity each year, probably for a limited amount of time, maybe it's prior to October 4th, when new folks can join the journey from whatever sector. So helping people understand that they don't have to wait, they can begin now. They don't have to sign up now, they can sign up next year or the year after that. They'll be taking this journey at their own pace and in a way that's consistent with their own identity, their charism, their mission, etc. So I think there's lots of flexibility in the journey, and we make it simply by walking it, and we walk at our own pace and we walk it together. So all of that is important, I think, if that helps at all.
That helps, yes, because
I
I think
see
that's a timing. Yeah.
I see Fran asking a question too, and any parish can enroll.
Yes.
Every parish in the Universal Church, welcome. There's 17,000 parishes in the United States. Wouldn't it be great if they all were on the platform?
Now, something else that was in both the chat and the questions, the idea that can non-Catholic organizations, nonprofits at all, connect? I think it's open to everybody, but they have to understand this is very much rooted within Catholic thought and religion. So you're welcome to walk the journey. I know that I was just reading the other day that when in Atlanta, Archbishop Gregory got an ecumenical group, and even the Baptist church where Martin Luther King, Ebenezer Baptist, they adopted the Laudato Si Action Plan of the Archdiocese of Atlanta. So yes, there are ways of connecting. A question here regarding was a question about the 10-member committee in the Archdiocese of Chicago, how they're selected. Are they all lay people?
They're from the parishes. They're from the 6 vicariates, and they're all lay people. Yes, they are. And
question mostly for Sister Ann and Bethany, but it could also be for others. Goal 7, advocacy. How is that implemented? How can you give an example? I would give the God's Planet US advocacy page, but are there other examples that you know of on advocacy goal 7?
Sure, I'm happy to say, there are a number of congregations, so we're talking about religious orders, men, women, priests, brothers, sisters, who have been involved in environmental justice advocacy and advocacy around climate change, around fossil fuels, around investments, right, and divestment. So I think there's a lot of good work happening and is very connected to that movement already. I would say probably the larger conversation is across sectors, right? So if we're mobilizing to pursue policy change, we are going to need all of the sectors. So I would say 100% religious sectors are already doing it. It's more a matter of connecting perhaps other groups together to do it effectively with all of us at the table.
Thank you. Any other answers on that before we close? Unfortunately, we are at the 3 o'clock timeline. I want to thank all of our presenters for their fabulous presentations today. Want to also put up here for more information where you can go to. You can email at info@Catholic Climate Covenant, or you can email me directly, Paz, P-A-Z, @CatholicClimateCovenant.org. I will farm out the questions to our presenters if I need to. I will also tomorrow be sending out the recording, the webinar PowerPoint slides. Michael, I don't know if you want to share yours. Sometimes folks
Sure.
do. Oh, excellent. And any other thing that I might find that I need to put in there from our presenters. So if you have something that you wish me to include. Thank you, everybody. Couldn't get through all the questions. I apologize. I will try to go back and answer some. We do not share the chat. Unfortunately, we did have an issue with it once, and we've had to close that ability for you to save this chat. But thank you all for being here. Thank you, presenters. You're my special, special friends these days. I'll see you again. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Paz. Well done. Good
Thank you.
job.
Thank you. Bye-bye.